Start this hour here in the UK, where there's been renewed rioting in some cities in England and Northern Ireland. The worst outbreaks of violence came in Belfast, Plymouth and Birmingham.
121 arrests, 34 injured officers, 5 overturned police vans, 3 underground lines suspended, and central London paralyzed in just 9 minutes. Not by protesters, but by a coordinated network of illegal migrant groups operating openly, fearlessly, and without a single order from Downing Street strong enough to stop them. It happened today, under a bright winter sky, at the busiest hour of the week. At 12:41 p.m., the first cluster appeared at Oxford Circus. At 12:47, Regent Street was jammed with bodies moving in formation. At 12:50, police declared situational overload. By 12:53, London's retail district, the heart of Britain's economy, looked less like a shopping boulevard and more like a city surrendering itself in broad daylight. This wasn't a spontaneous crowd. This wasn't a protest. This was a takeover, organized through encrypted migrant channels, coordinated through handlers across 4 boroughs, and executed with military precision by groups who should never have been in the country in the first place. And while thousands of families were trapped inside locked storefronts, while workers hid in stockrooms, while police begged for reinforcements, Keir Starmer stayed silent. Again. The Prime Minister, who promised security first, delivered zero command. The Home Office, that claimed to be in control, lost the city in under 10 minutes. And the Metropolitan Police, crippled by political pressure to de-escalate and avoid offense, surrendered entire streets to people who entered Britain illegally. Every Brit watching knows the truth. If you protest for lower taxes, you get kettled. If you march against crime, you get permits denied. But if an unverified migrant network mobilizes illegally across the capital, the government looks away. If you're tired of being treated like a stranger in your own country, if you're tired of leaders who bow instead of lead, smash like plus subscribe right now, because the more they try to hide this story, the louder we will make it. Today wasn't a disturbance. Today was the day Britain lost control.
At 11:14 a.m., London's normal weekday rhythm snapped. Not from a terror alert, not from a political announcement, but from something far more destabilizing, a coordinated surge of illegal migrant criminal networks moving in unison across the capital. For weeks, intelligence briefings warned of encrypted telegram channels funneling stolen goods, forged IDs, and violent debt collection operations. No one expected them to mobilize in broad daylight, at a scale that would overwhelm the city in under 40 minutes. The first breach came from Holloway Road, where over 120 individuals formed a moving blockade, smashing CCTV units and forcing buses to brake so abruptly that 9 passengers were injured. Police arrived, then pulled back. Their internal logs would later show the chilling note: units outnumbered, requesting tactical support, no response. By 11:27 a.m., 5 separate districts reported group surges, coordinated movements targeting high-traffic zones. Camden, 214 suspects flooding side streets, raiding courier vans. Southwark, 3 officers injured after being surrounded near Borough High Street. Edgware Road, 17 stores forced to shut in under 10 minutes. These weren't random acts of chaos. They followed the same timing pattern, the same call and move signals traced to burner SIM cards linked to illegal entry networks spanning Spain, France, and the Balkans. And while the streets convulsed, the Home Office issued nothing, just silence. At 12:03 p.m., the Met Police declared citywide capacity limit reached. This public message was never released, but internal dashboards lit up with red alerts. 247 officers pulled from unrelated duties. 6 boroughs reporting loss of operational control. Calls to 999 exceeding 420% of normal volume. Shoppers abandoned entire blocks. Office workers locked themselves inside buildings. Businesses pulled shutters as fast as they could. And still, no statement from the Prime Minister. Starmer's silence wasn't leadership, it was paralysis. By 12:40 p.m., something happened the government didn't expect. Britons, ordinary shopkeepers, drivers, delivery workers, began forming their own protective lines to push back the criminal groups. Not vigilantes, not mobs, just citizens who realized the police had lost the ability to hold the streets. A delivery driver shouted, as captured on phone footage, "If the government won't protect us, we protect ourselves." This was the moment the Britain Takeover Day stopped being a crime wave and became a political reckoning. When the footage of London collapsing was mapped onto a timeline, analysts noticed something disturbing. The movements were too synchronized to be spontaneous. From Holloway Road to Camden, Southwark, Lambeth, and Edgware Road, each surge began within the same 3-minute window. Different boroughs, different groups, same timing, too coordinated, too organized, too precise, and all of it eerily similar to the patterns intelligence units have been warning about for months. Illegal entry networks using Britain not as a refuge, but as a staging ground. The questions now grow louder. Who gave the signal? Who funded the logistics? And why today? Within hours, investigators traced dozens of public videos to private Telegram groups, some with over 15,000 members, many operating in multiple European languages. None contained explicit orders. No messages said, "Go now." But the timing patterns were undeniable. Cryptic posts, location-coded emojis, short bursts of identical reactions across hundreds of accounts, not instructions, but signals. Signals only understood by those inside the network. Officials tried to claim the groups were simply busy chat communities. But no one believes that anymore. Financial analysts flagged another anomaly. Over the past 6 weeks, an unusual stream of small, untraceable micropayments flowed through prepaid cards used widely among undocumented groups. The amounts were tiny: £4.20, £7.90, £11.30. Individually meaningless, collectively suspicious, because every spike in these microtransactions happened 48 hours before a major disturbance. Someone was paying for coordination, but paying in a way designed never to be tied back to them. Each banking trail ends the same way, source unknown. By early afternoon, journalists, analysts, and even some anonymous police officers began whispering the same thought. This wasn't just a bad day. It wasn't coincidence. It wasn't random. It felt like a stress test. As if someone wanted to know exactly how fast Britain breaks, and the answer was clear. Under Starmer, it doesn't take long. Because the networks did not fear arrest, they did not fear prosecution, they did not fear the government. Why would they? For months, the Prime Minister's messaging has signaled softness, compromise, and avoidance. Exactly the climate where organized illegal groups thrive. The country didn't collapse by accident. Someone pushed, and Britain slid faster than anyone expected. By midday, London had already reached a level of paralysis that should have triggered every alarm in Whitehall. But inside government, something even more alarming happened. Nothing. No Cobra meeting, no emergency update, no leadership. Civil servants later admitted that several senior officials were waiting for political guidance. Guidance that never came. Because the Prime Minister was not in the command room. He was not in the Met's briefing chamber. He was not even on a live line with the Home Office. He was reviewing community impact language with advisors. While the capital of the United Kingdom was suffocating under coordinated illegal unrest, Starmer was editing adjectives. At 12:43 p.m., the Met requested emergency reinforcement authorization, a routine protocol in situations where riots spread beyond 3 boroughs. The Home Office did not sign it. They didn't deny it either. They simply let it sit, unapproved. For 52 minutes, frontline officers were forced to make decisions with no legal backing, no strategic coordination, and no confidence that the government would support them if anything went wrong. One commander put it bluntly in a leaked internal call, "We're not losing control. We've been told not to take it." The problem wasn't manpower. It wasn't law. It wasn't logistics. It was fear. Fear at the highest levels of being accused of overreaction by activist groups and political allies. Throughout the chaos, Downing Street released no situational report. Local councils begged for updates. Transport for London pleaded for coordinated strategy. Emergency planners asked for national instructions. They all received the same response: "We are monitoring the situation." Monitoring what? The collapse of the Capitol in real time? A Home Office whistleblower later described the internal atmosphere. "We were told the priority was avoiding inflammatory language, not restoring public order." The government wasn't leading. It wasn't even following. It was hiding, hoping the situation would burn itself out without forcing them to make a politically risky decision. By 2:10 p.m., something shifted. Not in government, but in the public. With no police orders, no governmental presence, and no authoritative voice taking control, ordinary Britons began organizing their own protective measures. Shops barricaded themselves. Community groups formed their own patrols. Drivers redirected traffic manually after official systems shut down. For the first time in decades, Britain looked like a country without a functioning state. And the anger grew, not at the illegal networks, but at the government that let them roam freely. A viral comment captured the national mood: "We are not unsafe because of them. We are unsafe because no one stopped them." By late afternoon, as the final roadblocks were lifted and emergency crews cleared the debris, Britain finally saw the day for what it truly was: not a riot, not a protest, but a national turning point. For the first time in years, the public wasn't arguing with each other. They were united in one direction, one conclusion, one sentence whispered in shops, shouted in traffic jams, and posted across millions of screens: "This government cannot protect us." The shock wasn't that illegal networks had coordinated in broad daylight. The shock was that no one in power lifted a hand to stop them. Families walking home saw the emptiness of authority. Business owners smelled the weakness of Whitehall. Even police officers, exhausted and abandoned, spoke openly of leadership collapse. Something changed after today. Not in Westminster, but in ordinary Britons. People who had stayed silent for years began speaking. People who had accepted disorder as the new normal suddenly refused to look away. Online forums, town halls, radio call-ins, all filled with one energy: enough. Enough excuses, enough appeasement, enough fear, enough failure. This wasn't a far-right movement. This wasn't a partisan uprising. It was the reappearance of something Britain had lost: public courage. And that courage was now aimed squarely at the government that had left them alone in their hour of need. By sunset, a simple truth had settled across the nation. Britain wasn't overwhelmed today. Britain was abandoned. Not by its people, not by its police, but by the leaders who feared criticism more than they feared collapse. And so the public delivered its own verdict, not with violence, but with clarity. If you cannot defend this country, then step aside for those who will. This is the beginning of a new chapter, one where silence is no longer accepted, one where leadership is demanded, not begged for, one where the government will finally learn: Britain does not break quietly, Britain does not bow forever, Britain wakes up. And today was the day it opened its eyes. If what you saw today shakes you, then do not stay silent. Britain doesn't fall when its streets erupt. It falls when its people look away. So if you believe this country deserves safety, fairness, and a government that actually shows up when crisis hits, then hit like, subscribe, and share this report so the truth breaks through the walls they build around it. Because today wasn't just a warning, it was a countdown. And every Brit who refuses to stay quiet becomes part of the force that turns this country back around.